Okay, we are moving into our next panel, which is titled VCs on Decentralized AI. For this panel, we have Joey Krug. He's a partner at Founders Fund. Cheryl Chan, who is a partner at Dragonfly. And Dovey Wan, who is the founding partner at Primitive Ventures. And myself, I will be moderating, and I'm an investor at Symbolic Capital. On stage. All right. So just to get things started, I want to get a little bit of a lay of the land for the audience here. Dovey, maybe you could start. If you could just give us a little more context on your fund, and then specifically a bit of your approach to how you see the decentralized AI landscape.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Dovey Wan, and founder of Primitive Ventures. We are not a VC, but write VC checks, and because we don't have any LP and just all our own money investing on the balance sheet. So we've been investing in frontier tech, because crypto used to be under fintech since 2014, and then become its own category. And so I've been investing in frontier tech since 2014, and also AI prior to the transformer era, and then so it's mostly on computer vision. Yeah, and then so when it comes to crypto AI, and I think both of them are orthogonal. And so because crypto changed how money and value transfer, and then it's basically reorganizing our societal, reorganizing our societal value supply chain. And then when it comes to AI, because AI is a huge category, and then so pick up after ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is more of a revolution when it comes to medium. So when it comes to alternative distribution, because what ChatGPT has done is it's basically instantly create a new distribution channel out of the iOS, and then so out of Google Play, and then with 100 million sign up in just 3 months. And then so it's every major technology. Any major tech innovation is about alternative distribution. If we specifically talk about LLM as this new AI meta, and I really think that's alternative distribution that we have seen for our era, and also fundamentally, so it basically make human language into programming language, and then so what used to be 10x engineer, and then so now can be 100x engineer. So I think in the future we are going to see what I consider as a super solo. Super solo is you can be just one team army, and then so probably can make just hundreds of millions of ARR. Yeah.
Then Cheryl, maybe just a little bit on yourself, and then how Dragonfly sees the space.
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm Cheryl from Dragonfly. Dragonfly is only a Web3 fund. We don't do anything in Web2. Recently, we've been paying a little bit more attention into AI and crypto. I think the reason for that has been pretty straightforward. We think that in AI, because of the way compute and data has been set up, there's inherently a very centralizing force to that, in which there is a lot of trust assumptions to be had. We think that's kind of a perfect marriage with crypto, in which there is a need for a trustless, permissionless, more democratic solution in which you're putting power back into the people. So we've been looking at AI crypto pretty closely. We're pretty proud to have partnered with quite a few portfolio companies that we're sure will do very great things. And yeah, thanks for having me today.
And Joey, maybe just a bit about yourself and Founders.
Sure. So I'm a partner at Founders Fund. Our main model investing, which is the same model we apply to crypto as well, is we try to find really 0 to 1 ideas that are really novel or have some sort of technical edge or distribution edge. And then the other thing that's really important for us is backing the best founders. We're I think the only VC fund that's been around since 2005 that's never fired and never will fire a founder. And then we like to try to find people and companies that we think become market dominant players. In terms of the crypto and AI space, we've only made 2 investments there, one of which is Sentient, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a moment. I think there's, part of the problem, I think, is that, today in AI, the financial incentive is really only to do closed source. There actually is no good financial incentive for open source yet. I think Sentient, hopefully solve that. There's the other area that I think is quite interesting. We haven't made an investment in it yet, but the area of like creating sort of kind of an open marketplace for compute, not the style where you try to like everyone run their own, home GPU, but rather just like an actual large marketplace for compute. Because today all the platforms are effectively brokers. It sort of kind of reminds me of like Wall Street back in the bucket shop era, where very few people actually traded on the exchanges. Everyone went to the brokers, and so I think maybe that's an area where decentralized, tech could help there, but haven't done anything yet.
And so actually on that point, Joe, I want to push you a little bit, because when your colleagues at Founders Fund recently published a well-received piece, or at the very least a controversial piece, sort of pushing for closed source AI over open source, given it's a better business model. And then a couple months after that, you go and lead an $85 million round into Sentient, which is explicitly building an open source platform for AI. Just tell me more about your thesis on investing in open source AI projects.
Yes, I think, first I'd say as a fund, Founders Fund is, very good at holding two opposing ideas in our head at the same time, and then, making decisions accordingly. We don't have like, one kind of, firm-wide, 1984 style thing that you kind of everyone has to agree upon. But even outside of that, I actually agree with kind of about 95% of that piece John wrote about closed versus open source AI. I think today it's true. The financial incentives for closed source are far better than open source AI. The reason is because once you publish an open source model, today anyone can just use it, and so it's very, very difficult to monetize off of it. Facebook has some ideas. Maybe they'll be able to monetize because they can monetize off their user base somehow, but even that's questionable. There's some talk that Zuckerberg will probably open source the next model, but it's probably not going to open source the $50 to $100 billion training run model. So I think that's part of it. The one part of the piece that I kind of disagree with is I don't think one of the other arguments for closed source is like national security concerns. And I think those are a little overrated, just in the sense that, if you kind of read the press, like, OpenAI was hacked in 2023. A lot of these security concerns, I would sort of just assume, like, if you made me bet on it, I would assume that, the Chinese government probably already has access to the weights of a lot of U.S. Closed source models, not based on any inside information, just based on what I would bet on. And if that's the case, and you kind of take the bet that it's very unlikely that the U.S. government or any of these private companies in the U.S. could actually secure our models, in a closed source world, then open source doesn't really have, the downside that it seems if you assume that the world is insecure, which I sort of do.
And to steer the conversation a little bit, Cheryl, we know each other a little bit, and you're one of my favorite skeptics in the crypto AI investing space. Can you tell me a little bit about, which like sub-verticals within this larger domain of crypto AI projects are most interesting to you? Where do you think there is a real need to decentralize AI? Like, what gets you excited?
Yeah, I think just to kind of follow up on what Joey was talking about, because I think what was important in the decision behind Sentient was really in that crypto kind of has this unique advantage in order to make open source AI profitable for its data contributors, for the model developers, and really the way it's trying to do that is by basically trying to have attribution on chain. And I think kind of having that win-win scenario of when crypto can inherently make AI better or the other way around is kind of why Dragonfly wants to be an AI crypto itself. So you've talked about how, I'm a little bit skeptical of a lot of these vaporware projects that have been going on in the space and raising 100 mil rounds right off the bat. I think for us, what's really important is kind of finding an angle wherein the hyper-financialization of crypto can make AI better. So for example, one of the projects that we recently invested in is called MyShell. MyShell is kind of today it's kind of like a tokenized character.ai. but in the future it has plans to be kind of a launch pad for AI assets. So if you look at it today, it's basically just a marketplace for AI chatbots, for example. And what crypto is inherently doing is creating this hyper-financialized aspect of social betting, in which you can kind of bet on different AI agents that you think will be providing the most value going forward. So instead of having users paying for subscriptions to talk to chatbots in the way Web2 currently is, which is the usual monetization model without Web3. Now you're having Web3 speculators come into the ecosystem and kind of really bootstrap and hyper-accelerate that flywheel. So we're kind of looking for edge cases like that in which AI and crypto naturally can come together.
And then, Dovey, to bring you into the conversation, are there any areas where you think centralization is really essential for a specific crypto AI project? Are there any sort of vectors within a startup stack that you think, maybe at least initially, centralization is good, and then there can be progressive decentralization? Sort of how do you think about this idea of progressive decentralization within the world of crypto AI for investments that you're looking at?
Yeah, so I think there's a spectrum of so there's a spectrum when we talk about decentralization, right? And then also, are we talking about the training itself? Are we talking about the data pipeline? Are we talking about the inferences? And then so I think there's a spectrum and there's a different stacks, right? So for us, and then so we don't look at the thing like that, and so probably just take a step back. So if we think about smartphone, right? So let's smartphone basically made all the the small consumer gadgets obsolete, right? Just like before smartphones, and we have camera, we have recorder, we have GPS, we have all different small consumer gadgets that we have to just collect for our daily applications. And then so I also think it will be probably the same for AI, and then so decentralized, and then also DAI in the future. So they will potentially make all different SaaS application, and especially verticalized SaaS, and then so long, and then also long, and then verticalized SaaS as well as all this long tail SaaS, obsolete as well. Just give you one quick example. And so we internally, we have a lot of meeting notes, and then so we don't, and then also recording and stuff like that. And then so I myself, I write a lot of my personal journal, and then also sometimes, and I actually record my dream as well. So probably wake up in the middle of the night, and I just quickly snap my phone, and then just talk about what I have dreamt, right? And then so for all this recording, and also for many lawyers as well, so they cannot, so it's much better for them to do local computation when it comes to process all of this information. So that's why when I think about decentralization, so I think about what the user need is, right? And then so currently we are running, Alpaca, which is a local model, and then because we don't want to upload any of this, we don't want to upload any of this material to the cloud and to the Microsoft cloud, right? And then so once we can, and then first of all, we have to run the local transcription. So that is one model from NVIDIA, which is small enough can fit into your local MacBook. And then once we have the transcript, and then so we just process all the transcript also using local model, right? And then so that is how can let the individual investor, founders, or future entrepreneurs so can safeguard their secret sauce. And so I think when it comes to the decentralization versus centralization question, yeah, and I think it's okay because for the new startup founders, it's very hard for them to just to battle with Meta, to battle with Open AI when it comes to compute resources, and then so we can just let them to just dump money to all the computation problem, and then so once we have that, and then so when it comes to edge computation, local compute, and also verifiable inferences. And so in the future, and what Sentient is working on as well, so can also probably give alternative attribution model, so to empower all the individual creator and then just knowledge workers. Yeah.
Okay, and then I wanted to maybe take a step back, look at the greater landscape. This investing market has been kind of crazy for a while, and I think we've seen a lot of big rounds happening. As VCs now, how are you seeing pricing change Maybe Cheryl, do you want to start? How does it also feel as a VC to be in a market like this? Are you hoping that changes? What are you seeing?
Yeah. So you're also asking me off coming off vacation for 2 weeks. So my commentary will be pre-vacation. Yeah. This was a nice welcome back, by the way. I think I think we have been seeing prices come up quite a lot. And I think the reason for that is, it's never just the founders, but VCs have also been willing to fund projects at these pricing. I do believe in, demand and supply slowly working out. I do hear our founders starting to negotiate a little bit more on pricing. So it has softened a little bit in the last couple of weeks. But really, I do think that the overall risk reward probably hasn't been as attractive as it was, say, early this year.
Joey, maybe do you want to weigh in as somebody who was involved in one of the bigger rounds recently?
Yeah, I think, there's no way to deny it. Pricing is certainly, substantially higher than it was this time a year ago. It's probably substantially higher than it was this time 6 months ago. And I think it's probably going to still be substantially higher 6 months from now than it is today. I think, the implication of that is you just have to be a lot more selective in terms of, what investments you do make. I think there's also some investments where there actually is a downside to raising, too much capital or a too crazy evaluation. And so there's some founders that are kind of very rational about that, because they've been a founder before or whatever. So those are, rounds that you can kind of always do irrespective of where the market cycle's at. I think, I think the market's definitely gotten, a lot crazier than it was a quarter ago.
And then speaking on founders, when you're identifying or evaluating an investment within the crypto AI space, how important is it for somebody in the founding team or multiple founders to have Web 2 AI experience? Is that valuable to you? Are you wary of investing in pure Web 3 founders trying to do this new AI thing? Joey, maybe you want to start again?
Yeah, I think it's useful to have at least one person on the founding team with some, AI background, whether that's academic or an industry. I don't think it's as important as hiring really smart AI people. The most famous AI company that's created the most valuable, other than NVIDIA, but if you look at the private markets, it's Open AI. Sam Altman had no AI background, and so I think, whenever you have a super hard and fast rule about anything as an investor, there always tends to be some exception to it. But I think generally it's useful for sure.
Dovey, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, and then also just want to add on the valuation question, right? So because I chat with a lot of these Web2 AI founders or Web2 AI crypto bandwagoners, so they have this very idealistic or just this fantasized moment on, okay, because Workcoin is at the top is close to 100 billion coin, and then so I can launch 10% of Workcoin or even 5% of Workcoin, right? But the thing is most of them just don't understand how crypto capital market works, and Workcoin is just a Sam Altman, so it's just a Sam Altman meme coin, right? And then so that is the fact that Workcoin has no intrinsic value has most of the capitalization value. So many of these Web3 founders, so they just don't get it, right? And so their mental model is around this market valuation comparison, and then same for many VC as well. So currently for many this crypto VC, and I think their valuation model is just everything come to either Workcoin or just Big Tensor, but BitTensor is a low flow coin, and then it's a POW low flow coin, just a virtual POW low flow coin, just from the start. So I think there's a lot of just totally unrealistic expectation when it comes to valuation, and we have seen most of the AI. The crypto AI thing try to raise a 200 million or 100 million as a pre-seed round, and then so now it's heavily re-rated. Yeah, so like one of the very notable ones, so like was raising at 300 million a month ago at like Dubai token 2049, and then so now the valuation like down to 100, and then so like once you try to down raising, and it's like a pretty weak signal, right? It's like a supply demand, right? So anyway, so when it comes to founder, and I think so like founder like yeah, so like definitely he needs to understand what like AI can enable. And then so what AI can and what AI can have a really nice like union point to so really nice union point with like crypto, right? And then also because if you're like a new founder and then you have to leverage it like your 3 capital, social capital, human capital, and then also intellectual capital, right? So to better raise. And so I think like if like a non-AI founder, like he or she can hire some relatively good like AI researchers, and then so that would be a really good sign. And then like the actual crypto dominant founder like needs to handle all this like financial populism stuff, right? And then so community branding, and like narrative crafting and like all this. And then so my advice for all the founders is that imagine yourself as like a producer of a movie, right? And then so you have to hire like the director, and then so also you have to work with like the director to hire like a cast of like actor and like actresses. So like that is like a rough like mental model we have.
Okay. I want to go down the line now, looking ahead, and ask, what categories are exciting to you the most within this space moving forward, and with a particular carve out for seeing a lot of infra companies getting funded in this space and not a lot of consumer projects. And I'm also curious, do you think that the crypto AI market is going to go the same direction of Web3 more generally, which is a ton of money in infra and underinvestment, and sort of, I think, associated underutilization of consumer applications? Let me start with Joey and then working our way down.
Yeah, in terms of the AI side, I think the stuff that's less interesting to me is like the sort of on-chain, fully verified like inference or some of the zkML stuff. I think it's there's not really that much demand for people kind of either as users or on the AI community side. Stuff I'm excited about, what Sentient's doing. I'm excited about some of the GPU marketplaces. I think someone will create something on the consumer side, which is more like, probably by the time GPT-5 is out, it'll be possible to do this in a way that actually works really good, which is like, a really simple interface to use crypto, where you just kind of say, hey, I want to deposit, 100 ETH into MetaMask or into Maker and borrow, this amount of USDC, and then automatically send it to my Coinbase and sell it for dollars. And like, you should be able to plug into all the APIs to do that. Outside of that, the kind of more broader question of infrastructure versus consumer, yeah, there's still a lot of infrastructure stuff in crypto. We've been funding some stuff on the infra side. We've also been funding some stuff on the consumer side. I think, Polymarket's one of the bigger consumer bets we did. And I think that's going to continue to get even bigger, into the election. I think, there's one or two others as well that haven't been announced yet, but I think, I've been investing in crypto for, since like, 2017 as VC, and I'd say I've probably done, more consumer stuff, in the last 8 or 9 months than I did, in all the time prior to that. So I think there finally is some early consumer stuff starting to happen, but it's still early in a minority of deals as opposed to a majority.
This is a very loaded question, by the way. I feel like this could have gone on for like the entire 40 minutes. I think what I hate about a lot of founders raising is that they typically go for, okay, what is really highly valued in the markets right now? What is the narrative that VCs are pouring a lot of money in? Let me go start that right now. Many times it's pretty obvious from the first couple of calls. And so I would say that as much as we have a fiduciary duty to our shareholders, I definitely try to keep my eyes peeled to what actually makes sense, what can have actual product market fit, what makes sense technically, regardless of how it might be valued on the token listing. With that said, I think things like on-chain training is still very, very difficult today. In terms of the infra, like architecturally, what it has to be done, the parallelization of workloads in a distributed way, it still does not feasibly make sense. So we have not been putting too much time there. I am very curious as to what has been happening lately in decentralized fine-tuning and model alignment, model distillation, model compression. I think that is very fascinating. Something like distributed inference, for example, which can be done on a single node, that's obviously very feasible today from a go-to-market perspective. That also seems really interesting. Like I mentioned, my shell, we've been investing heavily into consumer apps as well. So I think for us, it's more a matter of just first principles. Does it make sense? Do we think it adds value? Is there a way that AI crypto marriage can come together?
Dovey?
Yeah, so I think for us is consumer versus infrastructure. Okay, so like infrastructure, so economic infrastructure is also an infrastructure, right? And then economic. So do you consider money as an infrastructure? So like as an economic infrastructure or as an economic application? Because I think like money is the biggest, both the biggest application and then also infrastructure when it comes to crypto, right? And just like this global magical internet money. So I think when it comes to crypto AI, and so for now, so like what we are seeing for now is, so there's a lot of, so what I consider those as a economic infrastructure middleware for like AI. Say for instance, we invest in Sapien, and like which is a like decentralized like data pipeline. So for future AI training, basically what Sapien is doing is Open AI right now. So they hire like millions of like Africans in Nigeria, in Kenya, and basically to do their like human reinforcement learning. So on their AI model, and then so they basically pay like everyone like $1 to $2 like per hour, right? And then Sapien basically tried to do it in a more like collective, like crowdsourcing way, and then just like make it pretty fun. So imagine just like an Access Infinity version, but for AI reinforcement training. So like that's what I consider as more as this like data, like just like this like data economic like middleware, right? And also like the other AI portfolio we have is like Hyperspace, and so Hyperspace basically is like a decentralized network of like local compute. Yeah, so like that is also, so that's probably more on like the infrastructure side. Yeah, and so I think like crypto, so like what is crypto really good for is for alternative distribution and also for alternative value attribution. So if you can build center around this like two fundamental elements, then does not matter whether you're like categorized as application or infrastructure. Yeah.
Great. Well, I think that's all the time that we have for this panel today. So the three of you, thanks for your participation and taking these questions. And let's give them a big hand as we move to our next panel.